seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls our name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are one. We've come so far. We are breaking through. We're standing on the edge of a better view. Who will you be? Don't give up this fight. Tomorrow starts today. All we need is time. Time can pass 1,000 seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls your name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are seasons and never give up all its reasons. This new day calls our name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Never give up all its reasons. This new day calls your name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now. A song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are
Hi, hello, good morning, good morning. Can you hear me? If you do, give me some comments. Hi, good morning. Well, good morning for me and good afternoon for you, or good evening for you, more like, right? Okay, hi. All right, let's see. Oh, I'm starting to get the hang of it. At least today I'm like on time. I'm playing the music. I'm setting up the countdown timer. All right, let's see. Today we're going to be talking about winter harvest. Hello, Bill. Hi again. And today we're going to be talking about winter harvests. I know that Bill is from Florida. Do tell me where else you're all tuning in from. And let me know if you're watching replay also, so that I know that there are people who are watching replay. I see that there are about 1,000 people watching each of the videos. I hope to be able to reach more because this information is so important. So please feel free to share this group with people at them and all members only, because if they're not members, they actually don't understand why we're talking about Gary Young. Only when you have really experienced our amazing products and how they have changed your life, then these stories will be meaningful for you. Otherwise, it will be just stories. It will have no meaning. And another thing is, I do encourage everybody to write a Facebook post and to share what you have learned in this class so that your friends will know why you love Young Living so much, right? So can you imagine if each person who has watched the video make one Facebook post, and we have 1,000 Facebook posts going around social media telling people how wonderful and what Gary Young have done to the modern essential oil world, right? Because in fact, he is the guy who brought essential oil from France to the English-speaking world in America. Obviously, the ones that there are ones that who have done it in the UK, the English-speaking world in UK. However, they do not use essential oils like we do. The quality of their oils do not have as such high standards. So they only always talk about diffusing and diluting for massage, and definitely not use undiluted and definitely not ingesting. But our oils have a different kind of quality. It's totally different. So that's how we can use our oils differently. So I would love for everybody to make one Facebook post every time after they've watched this video, and just to talk about just a short one. You can do a screenshot. It's better if you post a Facebook post. If any social media post, you attach a photo with it, then it will be much more meaningful. It will get much more show on Facebook. It will be displayed more to your friends. So I would love to be able to do that using this platform to show everybody the difference between Young Living and other essential oil companies, or in fact, other network marketing companies. There are tons of good network marketing company in the market. A lot of them have really good products, but with essential oils, Gary is the only person in the entire industry who did this. And do tell me where you're connecting from, other than Bill. From beautiful Florida, I envy you. The weather there is amazing. In Hong Kong, it's very hot. It has been raining heavily this morning, and we have a typhoon one, but now it's all bright and blue sky. So, and we're getting into summer. Probably the weather is getting warm, right? Okay, let's start. Let me share screen. All righty. Why is this so big? Okay. Okay. Why did I mute myself? Thank you, Gretchen. Gretchen is at the background. Again, telling me that they can hear me or they can see me or what's going on. And I didn't even notice that I muted myself. Anyway, so I've got this cat. In fact, I've got 7 cats at home now, because I've got a boy cat and a girl cat, and the girl cat just gave birth to 6 little kittens. One of them didn't make it. So there are 5 kittens, and she's nursing them. It's been a week, and the boy cat is calling because he's watching over them. Anyway, so you might hear cat calling at the back, which is fine. It's just a boy cat. He's more vocal. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about the importance of winter harvest. I have scoured the internet and the Young Living YouTube channel for a really good winter harvest video. And there are quite a few. I like this one the best because I feel like this one shares and shows the most about winter harvest. Okay, let's see. Let's play. Oops, what the heck? Why is it not playing? Why is it not playing? I'm worried now. There we go.
Hi, I'm Casey Conrad from Rhode Island, and I've just landed here in beautiful Spokane, Washington for another winter harvest.
And I have longed to come to Winter Harvest for 5 years.
I have no idea what to expect.
I'm very excited and to see how the essential oil can be created.
But I'm going to meet a lot of nice friends, a lot of old friends that I've met before.
It was just such a great experience. I had to come back again.
Now we're ready to go play in the dirt.
Well, we just landed here in Spokane. I came over from Seattle.
We drove from Canada.
I flew in from Minneapolis.
We drove from Oregon.
12時間ほどかかってきました。
I think it was about 20 hours flight.
そこから車で2時間かけてこの山奥のアイダホのウィンターハーベストに来ました。
We got here about 9 last night, and it's been awesome ever since.
I've read about the balsam fir harvest, and I thought, enough just reading about it, let's do it.
And I was always waiting for my opportunity to come here because this is really something different.
まずすごくオイルを作る過程に最初は興味があった。
It's just an opportunity to get out and be part of nature in a way that's different than anything else that you can do.
I figured we were going to be stuck in a building, doing a lot of chemistry stuff, and it's been totally opposite.
I'm not the big camper, but if I had to go camping, this is definitely the place to go. You got the camp atmosphere, but you got all the facilities of home.
For me, it's basically payback for everything that Gary and Mary have done for myself and for my wife.
There's something about the harshness of the winter, the cold, the snow, the freezing rain. It brings the best out in people.
I think the teamwork here is what makes it so fun.
It's like a family atmosphere.
It's awesome to meet other people who have the same interests from you.
日本語しか喋れないんですけれども、みんながとてもよくしてくれます。
You will find not only lasting friendships, but a great way to build your business.
To be a part of a team, a unique group of people that come from various nations is really a soul-stirring experience.
For the last 5 years, I've thought about building a distillery at Highland just simply because every year the trucking from here to St. Mary's gets to be more difficult. So I started this year really looking at it and decided to go ahead and build a distillery here at Highland.
From seed to seal has a totally different meaning for me.
普段使ってるオイルの蒸留が自分でこう目で見れて、それが出来上がるのが実際に見れたのが楽しかったです。
So I can't wait to try the thing with the horses.
I've never logged with a horse before.
And they're very gentle and they're very responsive.
But
I know
they're huge.
They are huge.
And next thing you know, I'm hooked up with trees down on the ground to my left on a chain, and I've got these two big, beautiful Percherons.
I just finished an equine raindrop. It's my favorite thing to do.
We got to take part in doing everything from shearing trees.
I mean, we were out there knocking trees down, driving the machines.
I thought coming out here we would just be snipping off branches, but you take the whole tree.
Doing a Facebook Live.
Then they get moved over close to the chipper.
The tree has gone taken through the chipper.
It's like us playing a video game with a joystick.
To watch the chipper destroy this huge tree in a matter of seconds is really cool. There's a lot of times where we're just out picking up sticks. Gary calls them the gold. He'll say, okay, everybody, look around, and if you see any sticks or any green, that's the gold. So let's pick them up one by one.
It takes 10 minutes to get a trailer load of chips to the distillery. We back in on a heated floor.
It's a lot warmer. Even though the weather is colder outside, it is just so good to have this covered.
What we do is we'll scoop up the blue spruce or the balsam fir, and we dump it into these vats here.
That's a brand new cooker, and it's one of the largest cookers in the world.
We call it the monster cooker.
Almost a half of an entire truckload of ponderosa pine went into one.
We were actually down inside the cooker, stomping, pitchforking.
ジャンプしてこうやって
Then after we get the lid put on,
let it cook for 4 hours.
We lift it up and we bring it out to through these doors, and then we dump it right here.
And then it goes down into the basement, into the separators.
And the steam condenses, the steam brings the oil out. It was such a delight rushing downstairs to see the first drips. And when it starts coming, it bubbles up.
まるでそれは生きてるように、もうエネルギッシュに、そしていろんな色があって。
And I think the best part of it for me is to smell it, because it smells so good.
Here at our new GC gas chromatography lab.
You can see that there's a lab that tests every batch of oil that goes through.
We're able to check it right then and there, make sure everything's pure and good.
I'm up here to set up a miniature version of our bottling lines. The distributors can come in and bottle and label and cap their own bottle and then keep it as a sample.
So from the chips to the oil into the bottles. It's so fun to see that process.
I actually have taken a lot of pictures.
We've even created a Facebook group for this week.
I've already shared, I think, 50 pictures on Facebook.
I think in the last 24 hours, I've gotten 6 or 7 people saying, hey, I want more information. This looks really interesting. What the heck are you guys doing? And
たくさんの人がまた来たい、私も行きたいっていう風に。
And I've been sending pictures and videos of us driving all the heavy machines around, and my friends are like, I'm so jealous.
Well, one of the really nice parts of being here is that when you've worked a long time, then they have a hot tub.
We actually take the water from our processing.
There's balsam fir and blue spruce.
It's been nice. Their skin's been really soft. I know. I'm like rubbing the water on my face, like, oh, it feels like a baby's bottom.
もう体がとっても温まってとてもよく眠れました。
In all these years, building 11 distilleries around the world. I've never had a christening or a grand opening for one of our distilleries or farms before. I was told yesterday that we've got 300. I didn't know that we were going to have that big a crowd. I might have planned to put on a different suit, but anyway, it's going to be a great time.
I just would invite anybody to come out and enjoy and experience and be a part of what is one of the greatest things that we could do in the world, and that is to bring the purest essential oils to everybody.
Everybody wants to do something in their life that makes a difference. And I feel that that's what this company does.
If you do nothing in your life but come here to the Young Living Farm in Highland and have this experience even for a day, it will enrich in your life, and you will gain an appreciation for what it takes to make a pure essential oil.
I love that video. It's a little bit long, but I feel like that was the video from 2014 January winter harvest. That was the first distillation of at the Highland Flats distillery. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit of how that came about. And I love that video. One of the reasons why was because I wasn't in it. Because I went to Winter Harvest 2013, and back when I went, I'm going to talk about it. It's they haven't built the distillery yet, and while Gary was building the distillery there at Highlands, I was with him. I think I was seeing him once every 2 to 3 months, and he was very excited. Every time he saw me, he would tell me about what's the progress. And I remember, I think it was my platinum retreat when we were in Ecuador. He showed me photos of the monster cocoa being delivered to Highlands. I remember we were sitting there, we were having lunch or dinner, and he showed me his phone. He said, "Oh my God, they're delivering the cookers today. Look at this monster cooker." It's like, I can't remember exactly how big he said it was, but now I have the numbers here. But he was so excited. The sparkle in his eyes, that excitement in his heart was contagious. And I just started, I was platinum. So I started like 2 years into building my business. I knew it was important to him. I didn't feel the excitement back then, but now I felt the excitement because it was the largest essential oil distillery in the world. In fact, it's the largest cooker, and he designed it himself. And it's a dream that he has always wanted for 30 years. So that was a big deal for him. So, okay, so about winter harvest. What is winter harvest? If you know what winter harvest is, you can give me some comments in the bottom if you've been to winter harvest, or if you want to go, let me know in the comments. So when I started with Young Living, every month I would really look forward to receiving my ER order from the US. That was before Young Living Hong Kong opened, and we all ordered products from the US. And every month the Essential Edge news would come with the order. And I looked forward to it every month because I wanted to read what Gary was writing. Because every month, if you came before 2013, you would remember that maybe even he continued to write until 2018, the founder's message. But until 2014, I think he wrote the front article, right? So every month I would receive a newsletter of his own writing, like of his own article. So, which is fascinating because he was always traveling the world and he was always updating us what he was doing. So it was really, really cool to see what he was doing. And I remember, so I found these in the issue.com and the Young Living account. And it's all open to public. You can easily go to issue.com, issuu.com, and look up Young Living, and you will find all these old Essential Edge news. And I found this was in 2012, as you can see on the left, the winter harvest will kick off at Transformational 2012. So that was the first article. So because I think I actually joined, I joined Young Living in 2011, and that was the 2011 December, the December newsletter. And it says there, And because I was reading it, I remember he said, for those who come, the winter harvest will be a gateway to a new you, said Scary. What they will find is a greater appreciation for the earth, for hard work, and for young living. I guarantee it. And then I recall he said something like, those who have been to winter harvest, they can do, once you have ever been to winter harvest once, you will be able to do anything. And I've always wanted to be able to do anything. So, and there was this drive and this calling in my heart that I have to go. And back then, as and the idea of a new you was quite novel, because as a stay-home mom for my two small children, a wife, a daughter-in-law, and a daughter, I didn't really understood what me meant. Being brought up in a traditional Chinese family, we have always been somebody's daughter. And then especially my father is a really good businessman, and he owned a really big company. And so me growing up, I've always been somebody's daughter, and then afterwards I got married, and then I'm somebody's wife or somebody's young daughter-in-law. I've never really had an identity. And then after being a mother, I became somebody's mother, and if you are a mother, or if you understand what I mean, maybe give me some likes and give me some hearts, so I know that you know what I'm talking about. And the idea of me and the idea of the new me was intriguing, I would say. So I had this drive that I really wanted to go. So I signed up for the 2012 winter harvests, but I couldn't go because Frances Fuller and Patricia Gui. Patricia is one of my best friends, and she's also the one who introduced me to Young Living. She's my enroller. Frances Fuller is her enroller, and they're from Singapore. And they plan to come to Hong Kong that week, the same week that I was going to go to winter harvest. Because as a mother, there was only a very short period of time when I can leave my kids and go fly over to the US by myself. So, so I couldn't go in 2012. And then 2013, I was telling myself that I have to go because I couldn't go last year. And well, I'm grateful that Frances Fuller and Patricia came from Singapore to Hong Kong to do a 3-day sharing for me, because that really propelled me to become sober. But 2013, it was interesting because Young Living was planning to open the Hong Kong market. And the week that I could go to Winter Harvest was also the week where they were sending Tyler Williams, who used to be our general manager. Now he's left the company, but we remain good friends. He's now running his own interior design company with his wife in Arizona. Anyway, so that was the week where Young Living headquarters sent Tyler Williams to Hong Kong. And I remember I told my ex-husband, I was like, okay, I'm not staying in Hong Kong that week. I don't care, because last year I couldn't go to Winter Harvest. This year I have to go. And Tyler is going to be here for the whole year, or for whatever long he's going to be. So that week I'm not going to be here. I'll come back and I'll see him. So I went to Winter Harvest and it changed my life. I will tell you a little bit about it. I tell you, it changed my life. It changed the way I look at Young Living. It changed the way I behave as a person. It changed the way I look at my business as Young Living, because I didn't really look at it as a business. I still do. I still sort of, I think it's not the traditional sense of the business, but I totally look at building a team and Young Living entirely different. And since then, I've actually been to Winter Harvest every year except 2014, which was the year when they opened the Highland Flats, which was the year, the video that I showed you. I couldn't go on 2014 because we just opened in Hong Kong and I really could not leave 2 months after we opened the market. But you could see that there's a Chinese guy there. His name is Dr. George Zhang. He's actually a medical doctor. He went there and it also changed his opinion about Young Living, and he loved it. So, and luckily he kept me updated of all the happenings when he was there. So I know a lot about it. And then they're also in the video there's Mary, and then there's Gail, and then there's Karen Malone. I know all these people. And then there's Sabina. I know a lot of the people in that video because we've become friends over the years in Young Living. Anyway, so I went to winter harvest. And so how did winter harvest started? And you can see that winter harvest is actually in Highland Flats. This is what it looks like in the winter. These are little baby trees. And this is what it looks like in the summer. It's beautiful. It's very calm. It's a little piece of land out of nowhere. Hi, Debbie from Missouri. Hi, Barbara from Seattle. It's really the closest supermarket. I remember the closest supermarket is like a Walmart, which is like a 45 minutes or an hour drive. The closest town, it's 35 minutes drive. It's a little place out of nowhere. It's like, if you're gonna go, I think it's an hour away from anywhere else. So what do we grow in Highland Flats? So what do we harvest? We harvest Idaho blue spruce, Idaho grand fir, which previously was known as Idaho balsam fir, and then pine trees, okay? And these three different oils have a different requirement for distillation. You distill Idaho blue spruce for 4.5 hours, you distill balsam fir, well, grand fir, 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours, and you distill pine for 3 hours. I remember when I was there, I was always very excited when we were distilling Idaho blue spruce because it means that I can rest for a little bit longer because it takes longer to distill. And I remember we call it balsam fir back then. In fact, the reason why it was called balsam fir was because Gary thought it was balsam fir, but once it was being taken to get tested for the species, they found out that it's actually a grand fir instead of balsam fir. So now we've changed it to grand fir. It's the same oil and pine trees. We mostly distill Idaho blue spruce and grand fir over there, okay? And the uses for these Idaho blue spruce and grand fir is Idaho blue spruce. Gary has found that actually Young Living is the first company to distill blue spruce. The oil is pink. It looks like rosé champagne. It's very high frequency. Gary have said that it's even has a higher frequency of rose oil. It's really good for increasing libido, balancing hormones for guys and girls alike. Gary said you can use it like frankincense. And I remember Gary taught us that, in the Middle East, we have frankincense, right? That's what God gave the Middle East. And in America, you've got Idaho blue spruce. And in the northern part of North America, which is in Canada, up northern Canada, the cold areas, you've got black spruce. And then in France, you've got lavender. And in South America, you've got Palo Santo, okay? And well, I have yet to discover the one in Asia. I don't know what it is yet. I feel like in Taiwan, in the Taiwan area, it's Hong Kwai. It's a wooden tree. It's a conifer wood tree. It's Hong Kwai, which is the same as in Japan, Hinoki. It's the same species. It's just grown different in different parts of the world. And I have yet to find it in China. I have a feeling that it's wintergreen. I'm not sure. And so in every part of the world, and in Hawaii, the Pacific Islands, it's sandalwood. In Australia, it's also sandalwood. So you can actually know that by the list of the oils that I just told you, whatever way you use frankincense, you can use it with Idaho blue spruce, Hong Kwai, Hinoki, black spruce, and lavender, and sandalwood. They all use very, very similarly. Okay, you get an idea, right? So and it also, what Idaho blue spruce can also use is it removes the emotion attached to old traumatic memory experiences. You put it across on your forehead and the hairline on the forehead, and then on your big toe. So usually you use your cross arm, but that's another time. Well, I'll tell you. So you can put like Idaho blue spruce, put it on with your right hand on your left forehead, and then put it on your right foot next to your big toe, between your big toe and the second toe, that little area, and then using your left hand and put it on your right toe. And by crossing like that, they say that you can cross the brain, crossing the left and the right side together, and then it can help you remove and reset reset traumatic memories. Okay, I've tried it. I feel like it worked, and it also can reactivate cells. So it's an amazing oil. The smell is very mild and very gentle. It is also widely used in our blends. I will show you what blends have Ido Blue Spruce. And then Grand Fir, it helps, it's really good for respiratory system. It clears your airways. I've found that it really helps me dissolve the phlegm on my chest, especially for small kids, you know how they don't know how to cough out the phlegm. And I found that if I put Grand Fir on it, the phlegm just disappears. And it's also amazing for post-workout. I always bring it to the gym. I even put it on before I take a shower. So as soon as I get into the gym room, I put it on right away. And then after it's fully absorbed, I take a shower and then I put it on again. And I found that it really helps me neutralize that lactic acid that is causing all the muscle spasm and muscle pain on the next day after a workout. And it helps you like relax, and it helps you decompress. And I love the smell of Grand Fir. And it smells like Christmas tree because that's where it came from. And for pine trees, for the pine oil, I personally use it less. And I know that it can relax joints, and then it can help with respiratory, and it maintains cell health, and it's really good for skin. It's also great when you're diffusing it during Christmas because it smells like a Christmas tree. And I know that recently there are a ton of studies about on pine and a lot of different, I call it the Rona favorite. So look up pine and studies, and then you'll find a ton of pine essential oils and research studies. You'll find a ton of stuff, ton of good stuff. All right, so in order for everybody to know what a powerful Ido Blue Spruce oil is, Gary has put it in all of these blends. So look, there's belief, it's in belief, transformation, Shutron, and Lady Sclerio. So you get an idea, you know, the guy and the gal. And belief and transformation, freedom, into the future, one voice. I haven't looked into one purpose. I think it's also in one purpose. I do had one purpose. Well, it's in my handbag. Kids and Genius, In Touch, and Reconnect. So you get an idea what kind of oil Ido Blue Spruce is by looking at which blends Gary put it in. So there are a lot of transformational energy into it. And I also found that I remember when I first went during my first convention, it was the Believe Convention. No, it was the Transformation Convention, I think. Transformation Convention. And I attended Gary's emotional release talk. And I was watching, remember last time we talked about the movie Iron Will, and he showed parts of that movie Iron Will in it. And somehow it brought up a lot of emotions in me, and I was bawling. And I remember I was sitting in the front row, and I remember Gary came over and put Ido Blue Spruce in my palm. I sniffed it and I calmed down right away. It was an amazing feeling. I don't know how to tell you, but it's a really good oil to have at home. And it's very grounding, it's very transformational. It really helps you release negative emotions that have been trapped, that you haven't been able to work through. And it's really good for connecting your left and right brain. So you get an idea. I love this oil. You all must try. Okay. And Ido Blue Spruce, this was the first distillation. And I remember that when I was in Winter Harvest, the first time in 2013, Gary said, we haven't fully understood all the uses of Ido Blue Spruce yet. So we have to wait for members for the sharing and their experience so that they can discover more uses. It is the sacred wood of America, just like frankincense. It balances hormones and resets negative emotions. So I'm going to read out this little excerpts from Gary's blog. This is 2011, so the blog is from 2015. Does anyone in this picture recognize themselves? Members distilling. Yes, indeed. There's Judy, Kathy, Jill, and husband Kristen, and and her mom and dad. Thank you so much, these beautiful people. And came to St. Mary's over and over again, summer after summer, winter after winter, helping with the lavender harvest and the winter harvest. Thank you so much. This is loading the cooker. Members are unloading chips from the truck into the cooker and tamping them down prior to distillation. The St. Mary's distillery has 42,000 liters of distillation capacity. And this pink oil This is the blue spruce from last year's distillation. Isn't that beautiful? Sherry Ross was at the farm that day as I distilled the first batch of blue spruce. I was downstairs when the blue spruce oil was coming out. If we can call it blue, wouldn't you think it's going to be blue? It came out champagne pink. I went running up the stairs and said, Sherry, you have to come to see down here. You're not going to believe this. It's amazing. She came down the stairs, and it was one of the very few times Sherry was silent. If you know Sherry Ross is always talking. Oh, Sherry has become one of Gary's best friends. Was silent. Her eyes were that big round. Her mouth was down to her chest, and she was just standing there in awe. Since then, she has never stopped talking about blue spruce. Who would have thought that Idaho blue spruce essential oil would be such a lovely pink color? The reason why it's called Idaho blue spruce because the leaves, what do you call it? The branches, the leaves, it's a little bit bluish. It's so green that it's blue. So when you look at it under the sun, it's sort of bluish. So it's very fascinating that the oil is pink. And interestingly, when we put it into our bottle, it's not that pink anymore, it's clear. Okay. And as for Idaho Grand Fir, it's in rise above, one voice, and deep relief. Oh yeah, I love Cherry Ross. She's amazing. She's one of my most favorite. I call Cherry Ross the female version of Gary because she's such a fast knowledge of product. But except that, I always joke that except that Cherry knows the product name and Gary doesn't. Because sometimes when we're in a workshop with Gary, like usually in Winter Harvest, Gary would talk about a product and he'd go, "Oh, what is it called? What is it called now?" So or he would come up with a name, and then somebody would say, "Oh no, now it's called this," and he goes, "Oh, I don't know. I just developed them." Sometimes we have to change the names for different reasons. So Cherry always knows the name of the product. Sometimes Gary didn't. It's very funny. It's usually one of those prognomal known thing that the names have been changed. Anyway, so Grand Fir is also in rise above, one voice, and deep relief. So this is more like a deeper connection kind of oil. And interestingly, it's only in 3 blends. Isn't it amazing? And even these 2 blends were made after Gary passed away. So Gary only put it in deep relief. So I love using it for muscles and the chest, like the respiratory system. It's amazing. I love the smell of it. I love diffusing it. And okay. Oh, I forgot to change this page. This is the English, right? Okay, anyway, so I don't know why I skipped this. Anyway, the Chinese part is only the translation from the English, so I'm gonna read out the English. So how did it start? How did Winter Harvest start? It began in 1999. So the beginning of the Highland Flats Farm. This was the blog from 2016 in March. So this was just after Winter Harvest. Oh, wow, Bill, you've only been in Young Living for 16 years. Oh my God, your life is really going to change. Oh, thank you for always tuning in. So in 2011, Highland Flats harvesting trees, the colder the temperature, the better the oil. And so let me read this out. How many have been to the Highland Flats tree farm? Oh yes. Well, this is a wonderful story that unfolded over a number of years. On weekends, when we were harvesting the lavender, Mary and I would take off and driving through looking for wild tansy. This is what we were doing the day we found the tree farm. We were looking for wild tansy. A guy was on the D6 bulldozer and was piling and burning old, overgrown Christmas trees. I just thought, oh my goodness, he's burning those beautiful trees. I jumped out of the car, ran over and talked to him. He was hired by the owner, so he gave me the phone. And I called the owner in California and asked him what he was doing. And he said, well, I can't sell these trees. There's no money in it. So I'm taking them out so I can put another crop in. And I said, can I have the trees? And he said, well, what do you want the trees for? And I said, I don't know, but I'll clear your land in exchange for the trees. And he said, wow, that'd be fabulous. It's costing me $600 an acre for clearing the trees and burning them. Well, I was excited. He was excited. The contractor who lost his job wasn't too excited, but that's where it all began. When I got back to the car, I told Mary that I had just made a deal for all the trees. She looked at me as she does some of the times, and her eyes are kind of wide, and I can see the wheels turning in the background. I really did marry a crazy guy. He's been up too late at night. He gets up early in the morning and he's lost it. Now he wants all of these. What in the world is he going to do with these trees? How many of you like balsam fir oil, cedar oil, pine oil, blue spruce oil? Yes. And the farm is growing and growing and growing in Highland. And so, well, Bill, you're only 6 years older than me, so you've got plenty of time. So this is how it all began. So Gary was driving and he saw that this person was burning down the trees, and he took the trees and he distilled them and he tested it, and then he found out that there are tons of therapeutic qualities in these balsam fir trees. And the thing is, when I was there, I remember he was working through the night and he was saying that we have to take these trees down, because usually what we were actually doing, a lot of it was helping these Christmas tree growers to take down the trees, because Christmas tree, you can only sell them at a certain height. And when they were planted too closely together, when they've grown to a certain height, you cannot sell the tree anymore, especially once they start growing. The bottom part of the tree where it cannot reach sunlight, where sunlight cannot reach it, there'll be no leaves. And obviously you won't be able to sell a tree that look like that. So once they have, so for Christmas trees that are planted too closely together, they have to get rid of them. And a lot of the market, a lot of the, back in 2010, 2009 and around that time, a lot of people are moving towards artificial Christmas trees. And so there wasn't as much money in the natural Christmas tree industry. So a lot of them have decided to cut the trees down and then raise cattle instead. I remember the year that I was there in 2013, we were removing trees for a farmer who has decided to switch to raising cattle. And I remember that Gary told us that he was racing against time because not only did he need to remove the trees before the 1st of February, the owner of the farm was also requiring that we do it as fast as we could. So, and many of these conifer trees only produce oils in the winter, because most of these conifer trees in America, they only produce oils in the winter, because these oils go from the root into the tree trunk and off to the branch to keep the leaves green, to maintain color and to protect them and act as an antifreeze. And the lower the temperature, the better the oil, because then they have to create more oil to push through to the trees. And you can see in this photo at the back, the trunks here in the bottom, these trees are planted really close together. And these do not have leaves actually, because the sunlight cannot reach to reach them. And so these trees actually, they have no use for it. And these oil act as antifreeze, and when the weather is warm on highlands, the trees do not produce any more oils. So, and Gary have discovered that when the soil temperature is lower than 34 to 36 degrees Fahrenheit, the oil will all go back to its roots, and then the harvesting is finished. And so there are a few things that will control when we do the harvest. Is the temperature, obviously, the ground temperature. And also back then, before we had the distillery in Highland Flats, starting February the 1st, when the snow is melting, it is banned to drive heavy trucks on those roads because it's too dangerous. So it was always a race against time, and it depends on nature. So that's why back in the days before we had the distillery on Highland Flats, we would always run out of balsam fir and sometimes Idaho blue spruce. And as you can see here, Gary used horses for harvesting. And I have a lot of people who ask me, why do we use horses? And here I found this website. It's a British website, and horse logging is the traditional tool for future. Horses logging can work efficiently alongside a tractor operation if necessary. The use of horses minimize damage to existing crops, coppice duels, and areas of regeneration. They also have the option to work in small areas where failing to provide an extraction route can be kept to a minimum. It reduces compaction and damage to the woodland floor whilst giving no pollution from fossil fuel. Horses come in at other ends of the scale, but bring such benefit that often the positives makes it valuable choice for many owners. Particularly private landowners can see the long-term benefit of not clear felling sites and damaging the soil for the next generation. In times of climate change, soil erosion and compaction play a big part in losing carbon. Working horses to avoid this, we're making sure the future forests can survive the challenges coming towards us. Soil compaction is a major factor in creating problems like poor growth in trees, either freshly planted or standing with damaged root system. It causes rainwater to run off much faster, causing flooding and erosion. In dry periods, compacted soil does not hold a lot of water, causing drought stress on stands, seen in many European countries over the last few years. Horses weighing at 1 ton rather than 30 and not have wheels that smear the surface create a compaction that is a fraction of the machine. It also avoids creating ruts for water to flow off. Feet stepping on different areas every time will only compact the soil for a few centimeters down. After a short time, the soil and ground soil recovers, aiding regeneration of tree seeds and so helping the regeneration of natural woodlands. Big forestry machinery has been seen causing compaction and destruction of forest soils that has so far never been seen to recover at all. So Gary has always been conservatory in conserving the environment. So if you guys have Netflix, there is actually a documentary, I think it's called The Soil. It talks about a lot of how the carbon that needs to be preserved in the soil and what they're doing actually to preserve the soil recently. And interestingly, when I was watching that documentary, I realized that it's everything that Young Living is doing, everything that Gary has taught was taught to protect the soil for many, many years to come, which is not a lot of commercial American farmers are doing. And that is why the crops and the soil is really, really suffering now. So we can see from all these little things how Gary made sure that the environment is protected. I felt this was very important information to share. And let me go back to the time before he built the distillery in Highlands. So to give you an idea of how far Highland Flats is from St. Mary's, this is Highland Flats and this is St. Mary's, and it takes from, according to the Google map, it takes 2.5 hours to drive. And the law requires driving on snowy roads, maximum load capacity 52 tons, which is 110,000 pounds. However, due to the ice and snow, the other factors that come with the frozen chips, the total weight of this truck, including all the chips, usually could be over 55 to 65 tons. So it was very dangerous. And what Gary did was he would drive, so they would have to cut the trees, chip it, as you can see in the video in the beginning of the workshop, that they would chip it, and then they would chip and spray it all into a semi like this. And he would be driving two of the semi. And this was his truck. You can see that Gary Young's name is on it. And he would have to get off when there's like ice, he would have to get off and chain the tires. I have personally seen him. I have in person watched him chain tires. And this is what he did. Putting chains on and taking them off happened several times during just one trip between Highland Flats Tree Farm and St. Mary's Distillery. And when I was there, I remember my first, well, I will talk about it later when I share the photos. And I got these photos from the book, Seed to Seal book, as I have mentioned before. And to give you an even better idea, so round the clock in the morning, he would get up and he would chip the trees, he would cut the trees and then chip it and spray it into the semi. And then at noon, he would stop for lunch. And then in the afternoon, he would go on again. And then at 6:30, he would stop for dinner. At 8:30, he would start his truck and drive down to Highlands. Because of how heavy the truck is, a regular standard car would take 2.5 hours. So a semi would probably take 3. So he would start at around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then he would arrive at midnight in St. Mary's. And then he would unload the chips. And many times it's frozen because of being in the cold, sub-zero degrees for 3 hours in the trucks. Many times it would be frozen. It would take 3 to 4 hours to unload a truck. with 2 people. He would stop for breakfast, and then he would drive back up to Highland Flats. There's no time to sleep. It's ridiculous. Sometimes he would nap for an hour, and then he would get up in the morning and go again. Because even when he, so 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., he would go back. Oh, he would nap until 5, and then he would get up and have breakfast. Okay, so this was pretty crazy. He did this for many, many years until we had the distillery in 2014. So where was this? He started doing that. What? He started doing this in 1999. He did it for 10 years. Crazy, right? No, 13. Well, yes, later on when I was there, he had 1 person who helped him drive the truck. Otherwise it's him. Crazy, I tell you. And so these were photos that I took myself. This is one of our retired board members. Kevin Pace he was our CFO. He was still there at convention. I saw him, I saw his photos. So he's amazing. So that was his first year at Young Living. So they all went to Harvest to experience it. And you see, this is actually a, what do you call it? A moving belt. He installed a moving belt, hoping that it would move the chips down, but many times it's frozen. The belt is frozen. So like here, the belt was frozen. So it needs to be done by hand. 3 people non-stop. It takes 3 hours to unload the chips. And so because of all the work in danger, and in 2010, considered selling Highland Flats Farm and he tried to move the trees to St. Mary's, but these trees actually cannot grow in low altitude. And so he continued a 125-mile winter drive. And so let me share my experience. Oh, yes. And so he started thinking that he would have to build cabins in Highland Flats. So let me share my experience with, I'm going to have photos later on, sorry. So he decided in 2010 he needed to build the cabins first. Before I go into building the cabins, let me give you a timeline. We all remember how he got bitten by the bug in Ecuador, right? So this is the timeline. 2010, December, he got bitten by the bug in Ecuador, and he continued to fly all over the world. He flew to France, he flew to Oman, and then Ethiopia, and then he went back to home, and then he went to Winter Harvest in January, right? So he was bitten, he already fighting Chagas. 2013 summer, he started building the cabins in the Highland Flats. About the same year, we launched Nitro, and this was when he did the video that I showed you that he broke his back last time. And 2013, in the same year in winter, he built the distillery. The next winter, he built the distillery in Fort Nelson. So 2013 winter, he built the distillery, and that was the first winter harvest in Highland Flats. And then that summer, he went and scout land in northern Canada, and he bought land in July, because that was the time when we were out of black spruce. He bought the land in August and July. He started working, building the distillery in September. He worked through the winter, which I'm going to be talking about next class. He worked through the winter in the 20 degrees to 35 degrees cold and built the distillery. And that year, he went to Nepal and he rebuilt Nepal. And then 2016, January, summer, was the year when he injured his hand, his wrist, jousting, and started the saga of his illnesses. And he sort of recovered. And in 2017, January, he participated in the dog sled race in Alaska. And he finally passed away in 2018. So to show you the timeline of after he got sick, okay? And he still did all of these things. I thought that was very important to know. And so before he built the cabins, people would have to, these are all members would have to go to Highland Flats and live in like tents and eat in tents. And the women would help cook. Marcy and other wives would help cook, and they would live in this harsh winter. So before 2014, most of the harvesting and planting work in Young Living was done by members volunteering. It was a great way to bond, learn, and understand where our products came from. So this is Scott Schuler. He used to go there every year and build community and close bonds. Gary and Mary used to know all the distributors by name. Having participated in the production of oils gave us a sense of belonging and identity. Despite the harsh environments, members continued to volunteer, but Gary felt the need to build cabins so that they didn't have to live in this freezing cold. So these were these are, I think they're called anyway, you guys know what these are. And so he decided, starting in 2012, he started to build cabins and plans for distillery. And this is Eldon. I talked about Eldon in the last few classes. Nancy and Eldon, they were the people who first ordered with Gary. Remember the hand stuck glued on label that would fall off in Texas were sent to Eldon and Nancy. This is not Eldon and in Texas. And Eldon and Nancy were also the person who got that phone number so that Gary could call somebody when he was in Egypt. Yes. Okay. Remember? Okay. So, and you can see that it's all Gary. He's like sawing the trees. He's like putting in the floor. I love these. I can't remember where I found them. I think I found them in the Flickr Young Living account. And he did everything himself. He was he was an amazing role model for me. And he always said, I will never ask you to do something I wouldn't do. And honestly, I learned that from him. And now I do everything that I would ask my team to do, things that I would only do. If I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't tell them to. I wouldn't ask them to do it. So he was such an amazing role model. All these photos, I love it. I love watching how Gary worked, the integrity, the intensity, and all that standard. He loved getting his hands into working. He wasn't into, he was a $2 billion, he had a $2 billion company. One of the largest essential oil company, the largest essential oil company in the world, one of the largest network marketing company in the world. And he was still getting his hands dirty. He was still doing it. He wasn't just sitting around and telling people to do it, you know? And so finally, in 2012, in springtime, it's just like this. In wintertime, they put in a cover, and it consists of one dining area, one sitting room, one large room that sleeps 10. Oh, it's more than 10, actually. 16. This is wrong. A large room that sleeps 16, one room of 6, so 3 bunk beds, and then 2 rooms with 2 bunk beds. So this one actually has 8 bunk beds, so it's 16. And then 3 queen bedroom. He would say that those rooms are for the diamonds. And then 1 studio apartment where he himself would stay. I've been in there, there's a little kitchen and a little dining table and a little sitting area and a bed. And then 1 room with the 3 jacuzzi floor water, which you saw in the video in the beginning, and 2 bathrooms with 2 showers each. So 1 ladies' bathroom and 1 men's bathroom. And so other than the Highland Flats, this was my experience on my first winter harvest. This was actually in St. Maurice, because when I was there, the distillery in Highland wasn't built yet. So the year that I went was the last year. I felt very blessed. It was the last year that we had to move the chips from Highlands to St. Maurice. And this was my room. This was the inside of my room. And this was the cabin that I was staying in. It was just a room with a heater. There was no bathroom. So at night, when I had to go to the bathroom, I had to tread through the snow into the main building. And this was in the distillery. This was the jacuzzi that was in the distillery. And in the main building, there's a dining hall. If you've been to St. Maurice, is now the Gold Retreat. So if you've been to the Gold Retreat, you would know that there's a dining hall, there are 2 bathrooms, they're like changing rooms in the gym. They look like changing rooms in the gym, and there are 3 showers. And when I first went there, this was my 2nd year with Young Living. Okay, so my 2nd year with Young Living, was it my first trip? No, this was my 2nd trip, actually. So first time I saw Gary was in Singapore, the Singapore opening, end of November 2012. Oh, this was actually my 4th Young Living trip. So Singapore was the first time I saw Gary. Convention 2012 was Singapore was 2011. And then Convention 2012, I went to St. Mary's 2012 in August. That was my silver retreat. And this was actually my second time in St. Mary's in the winter, in my winter harvest. So it was the second time I was there. So I was familiar with the environment. And there was a dining hall. Marcy was a great cook. Like, she's amazing. She's like a mother. And I remember she said, "Oh, you're Chinese. Maybe I can cook some rice for you." So they had a rice cooker, and she cooked rice for me. And then she said, "Did you know that you can actually put some cinnamon and some cassia into the rice and put a bit of honey and mix it up? And it's like a breakfast cereal. It's quite funny." And this was my first experience. I live in Hong Kong, so I'm used to. I do go to snowy places for the winter because I ski. So it was nice, but I'm not used to being so quiet. I still remember early in the morning when you get up, it's like super quiet, and we have to walk down the slope to the distillery. It was heaven on earth. It's so beautiful and so quiet. And there were wild turkey and wild moose, and we could see the tracks in the morning. It's just a very good experience for me because I live in Hong Kong. It's a big metropolitan city. It's like New York, right? And another photo. So this was, so we could we could sign up for shift. Now they don't do winter harvest the same way. Now it's more like an experience rather than work. And when I was there, that was the last winter harvest that we were really working and volunteering. And we could sign up for 2 shifts, the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. shift or the 8 p.m. to 9 a.m. shift. 12-hour shift at 8 a.m. So I didn't want to work through the night. So I signed up for the day shift and nonstop. 3 cookers. We have to fill this up. So this was like they would put the chips in and we would stand here. The purple one is me. And then we have to stomp it. And then we have to cover it. The first time it was fun. The second time it was fun. But the third time we were exhausted. And then, so if after we filled up the 3 cookers, we can wait. So that's why I was saying that if it's Idaho Blue Spruce, I'm very excited because it's 4.5 hours. It takes about an hour to fill up each of these, maybe 45 minutes to fill up each of these. But every time after we fill it up, we have to clean the area because Gary was very adamant about it being clean. Although at the next, when we fill up the next cooker, the chips are going to be all over the floor again, but we still have to clean it up. So after we cover the cooker, we have to clean up the area. So it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to fill a cooker. And then the next one would be ready. If it's balsam fir, it's 3.5 hours. So the next one would be, so we have like 15 minutes break and the next one will be ready. We have to open it, unload it, and then clean it again. And clean also including cleaning the inside. And it's really warm, it's really hot. So we have to climb inside. And then the chips like stick to the stainless steel. You see all these little dots. I don't know if you can see them. It's just a pain, I tell you. And when it's balsam fir, it's nonstop. And then I would be so happy if I hear that we have to switch to another plant because that means they have to steam the fats empty for half an hour, and then they have to open it, and then we'll load. So that means I will have an hour break. Otherwise, I'd be working nonstop. And then the 4 of us girls were filling this up, and the guys, there were 2 guys, and they would be unloading the chip. They would be unloading. Oh, where is it? They would be unloading the truck. I would rather do this than unload the truck. I did try to go and unload the truck, but they said, no, you fill up the cooker. It's a lot of hard work. But anyway, and the thing is, after this whole day, so I worked like that for 2 days. And luckily I brought my Ortho Eats and my pan away with me. Otherwise I would not be able to work the next day. And I remember when I took off my clothes, so this is like an overall, okay? This is an overall. And I had an overall pull up, like an overall ski pants on. And when I was changing, I was taking a shower that night, I found sawdust I found chips in my panties. My goodness, they're like all over. And after dinner, I went to the floral tub. And the flower tub was in the distillery. So I had to walk through here into the flower tub. And I already brought like towels and everything, but it was still really cold. So I only did it for one night because I had to walk through the cold, wet, back into the bathroom to clean up, to dry up. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So I did that for once. I did that once. And so the next day, in the dining hall at dinner, we just sat around and we chat at night. It was really fun. And on Wednesday, I remember at lunchtime, Marcy, who was the cook there, she took care of us, and she was walking around the dining hall and say, "Who wants to go to Highland? Who wants to go to Highlands? Be there at the gate at 15 minutes." I'm like, what? Me, I'm going to Highlands. Because back then we signed up for the week and we had a choice to choose either St. Mary's for the whole week, Highlands for the whole week, or half-half. And I chose half-half. So Wednesday was the day for me to go to Highlands. So, and I heard that Gary was there. So I said, me, I'm going. So I quickly ran into my cabin, threw everything into my suitcases and dragged it through the snow. And this was my ride. The truck was my ride. The truck that was going back to Highlands after dropping off the chips. So, and the driver was a Hispanic guy. He was a Mexican guy. His name was Javier, and he did not speak English. I met him on the Sunday that I arrived because we arrived, we were all picked up at the same time together at the airport to go to the farm. So we were in the same car from the airport. So I met him. Well, he was in the car, but he wasn't picked up from the airport. I don't know where he was picked up. When I got into the car, he was already there. So I know I knew him from then. And as a young living builder, we like to talk. So I was trying to talk to him in the car, but he spoke only Spanish. Because I was asking everybody what their young living story was and why they're going to winter harvest. And I couldn't talk to him because I didn't speak Spanish. Well, I spoke like a few words. Anyway, so that was my ride. He was very kind. He took my 2 bags and put them in the back of the truck in the back here. And it was the first time I was in a semi. And I thought I should really take photos. And it was, I think by the time we started, it was 3. And the sun quickly started, and it was, as you can see, the sky was quite dark. And the sun started setting at like 4 or 5. And soon the sky was fully dark and we were driving. This was my photo and it was snowing. And I remember sitting there in the middle of nowhere in a truck with somebody that I couldn't speak to. And I thought to myself, and I remember the wipers in the truck going with the snow beating onto the windshield. And I was there sitting. And I thought, my goodness, I should not text my husband. He would think that I'm crazy because I have no idea where I am. It's dark and it's snowing and it's in the middle of the night. Well, it was not really in the middle of the night, but it was really dark. And I remember he stopped halfway. It was a gas station and he said, toilet, and go, okay, toilet. So I went to the bathroom. As I was going to the bathroom, I was like, hey, I hope that he's still there when I came out of the bathroom. And indeed he was. And then I got there. I remember I arrived at 7:30. So we left at 3. So it took 4.5 hours to get there actually. And I'm sure he was driving a bit more safely. So it took 4.5 hours to get up. And I remember when I got into and I sort of stumbled off the semi, and he said he would take my luggages for me. And I went into the cabin and I was in there, and this was the dining room, and they were singing happy birthday. It was Kim's birthday. And I'm still friends with Kim's. It was Kim's birthday. I remember I sat down, somebody came and said, hey, come sit down, would you like cake? And I felt warm, welcomed, but sort of out of place because I didn't know anybody. But it was very warm. Everybody was very kind. And Dale Billiter came over and sat next to me and said, hey, I'm Dale. And I've been emailing Dale back then. Dale is actually Mary's brother. he was helping with the events and helping with the farm. He was the farm manager. And so, hey, I'm Dal. We've been emailing. I said, oh yeah. And so he brought me to my room, and that's where I met the rest of my Young Living Winter Harvest friends. It was a great memory. It was such an amazing memory. It was such amazing experience. And so the next day, I went out and I helped pick tree trunks, the gold, as Gary would call them. In fact, in the morning at breakfast, I saw Gary and I walked up to him. And so this was like the 4th time I saw Gary. And I said to him, I said, Gary, I came here to learn from you. Can I follow you around today? And he goes, sure, but not today. Today I've got meetings. Tomorrow morning. So that day I went and I sort of don't know what I was doing. I just went out there and I helped pick branches. And then at lunchtime, I stayed at lunch, and then I helped out in the kitchen. And Gary did say he wanted me to experience everything. What else did I do on the first day? Oh yeah, and the first day I saw that somebody was sick, and Gary has left 2 recipes to make capsules for this person. And they were saying that she has they're guessing that she has pneumonia. And I remember Gary told, what's his name? I forgot all their names, but I have their faces in my mind. And I remember I was walking around, and I remember one of the ladies said to the other, the one who was sick, said, Gary said you have to take them. And then the other one said, but they're 2 full capsules. I'm pooping oils already. And then the lady who has been tasked to make sure that she took the oils, the person who was tasked said, Gary told me you're going to refuse. But Gary said that we have to make sure that you do. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to the hospital. And so she goes, oh, okay. And then I ran to her in the bathroom. She goes, I'm pooping oils. And interestingly enough, by lunchtime, was it lunchtime? By the afternoon, she was like all awake and like talking about Complan and all that with one of her team members in the dining room. And I said, I thought you were sick. And she goes, well, I'll take my oils. And then at night, at dinner time, she wasn't feeling well again. And I saw Gary was doing phytoflex. Gary was phytoflexing digize onto her feet. And I sat there and I watched them and I go, wow, this is the owner of the company. He didn't have to do this, but he was really a servant leader. So he was helping her make sure that she was feeling nauseous and she wasn't feeling well. And so she was doing that. So Gary was putting phytoflexing digize onto the bottom of her feet. And it was really a really great experience. And that night, Gary, so this photo was taken, I'm not sure if this was taken that day. And Gary also talked about hormones. So I took a little workshop a private workshop with Gary on hormones, but always he ended up talking about liver, because hormones were made in liver, and he always talked about liver loving club and how important it is to clean the liver. Anyway, and then the next morning, Friday morning, I followed him around, and I remember he said, yeah, wait. So I asked, so can I follow you around today? He goes, yeah, wait for me at the back. So I waited for him, and I got into his truck with him, just the 2 of us, and I didn't know what he was doing. He told me that he was doing blah, 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 and with his accent, I didn't really understand what he was saying, and all those vocabulary, I couldn't understand. And so he was actually driving to one of the parking lots for the bulldozers, and he actually drove the bulldozer down. So he was telling me that, oh, I'm going to drive the D8, D6 down to the farm. I'm going to go pick it up. And I didn't know what a D8, D6 was. And so that was what he was doing. He actually was driving his semi. He didn't have the truck box. He only had I don't know how to call it, the back of the semi. So it was like a half an hour drive from the cabin. And he was telling me his plans. He was telling me what we're doing. And then I was just sitting there in awe, just listening to him talking. And sometimes it would be quiet. And when he got to the parking lot, he got off the car. He got off the semi. He went over and he drove a bulldozer up onto his truck, onto his semi. And then I just stood there and I watched. And then I said, is there anything I can do to help? And he goes, oh, okay, open that and take out blah, 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 blah. And I opened, and I think he asked me to take out the chain. So I took out the chains. I said, these? So I helped him take out the chains. And then I watched him chain his tires. And then he explained what he was doing. He said it's safer to chain the tires. And he was talking about how it's not safe and da-da-da and all that. So, and then we got back into the semi, and 10 minutes in, he said, oh, and by the way, you're gonna have to drive the bulldozer down into the farm for me when we get there. I'm like, huh? What? I've never driven in the snow before. And he goes, well, it's either, they're just the two of us. It's either this, the semi, or the bulldozer. And I go, okay. No, and then I said, oh, but I thought you said you don't allow people to drive your semi because it's one of your most precious items. He goes, well, the bulldozer it is then. And I just sat there and I'm like, okay. And so we drove down to the farm. When we arrived at the farm, he said, well, now it's your turn. And he drove the bulldozer down onto the ground. And he said, Joanne, come. So I got onto the bulldozer. He taught me how to drive it. And then I drove, he got off. He goes, go, it's over there. When you get there, you turn into the farm. So I drove it down half a mile. He got out his phone and he recorded me. And I was going, ah, I was screaming. I was so scared, but I did it. I drove down half a mile and then I turned into the farm. Interestingly, when I got to the farm, there were people there and they were cheering on for me. So there were a lot of volunteers, like the guys, they were there to do the machines. And they were all cheering for me. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen these people and they're cheering for me. And I remember I felt like, wow, I could drive a bulldozer down in the snow. I've never driven in the snow and I've done it. And now I understood. I wanted to try other machines. If I can drive a bulldozer, maybe I can try other machines. So they taught me to do like a chipper, no, not the chipper, sorry, the tree cutter. He showed me how to use the tree cutter. And then that afternoon, he said to the guys, he said to one of them, his name was Dave. He said, Dave, make sure that Joanne try out all the machines that she can. So I did all of that afternoon. And then I also helped pick tree trunks, the gold. And then we went back and I was tired already. It was Friday. And then that night, I remember Gary said, Joanne, have you done everything? Have you pulled the horses? I said, no, I haven't pulled the horses. When are you leaving? I said, I'm leaving on Sunday. Oh, okay. Then tomorrow you pull the horses. So she asked one of the girls not to go back down to St. Mary's yet, to stay with me so that she can teach me how to pull the horses. And it was really cool. Like he really made sure that when we're there, we have all the experience that we could. It was such a great memory. So this was the photo. And okay, since then, since that 2013 experience and 2014, I couldn't go to Harvest. 2015, I went back with my team. I'm going to show you photos later. And 2013 was when he started building the distillery. This was actually his dream distillery, computer generated, automated, fully automated, computer controlled, efficient. He had 30 years ago in 1993. Isn't that crazy? Amazing. And so all these photos was when he was building the distillery and Highlands. And he was building, when they were building the house, that house, the distillery, they forgot to put the beam in. So he had to think of ways to put in the beam, the 7-ton beam. This is all in the book. Oh, and this cooker is 9 foot wide, 12 feet deep. It is the biggest in the world. And these are the 2 giant cookers. And he designed it in a way that we can walk in and see the thing through the glass, the separation through the glass. I'm going to show you. And look, this is scary. He put it in himself. And when he was studying the distillation, he even put clear quartz crystal, round one, and he's tried on different sizes and different quantities. He always tried like 2, 4, 6, 8. And he put it in the separator to make the essential more refined. He found out that when he put clear quartz crystal in the separator, the oil molecules that came out from the floral water is more abundant, and even the most finer molecules can come out and increase by 18%. And the steamer, cooler, and dividers are all made in the Mona farm and then trucked up north to Highlands. So it's all designed by him. If you buy the book, the Citrus book, you'll see his hand-drawn blueprints. And if you have joined the convention this year, Mary has also shown in the museum some of the hand-drawn designs for the distillery. And so 2014 January, finally, he could see that there would be more future demand for essential oils, and just trucking it back and forth wasn't feasible in the long term. So he designed the largest distillery in North America. It's 3 times bigger than the ones before. Its 21,000 liter steamer was distilled for the first time. Oils was distilled for the first time. 21,000 liter cooker was used for the first time in January the 6th. And he encountered the problem he encountered. I know because this is Dr. Zhang. He was updating me because I was in Hong Kong, but he was telling me about it. So the cooker was so big and deep because it was 12, you see here, it was 12 feet deep. 12 feet deep, the ceiling wasn't, so 12 feet. And when they lifted out the first distillation, the ceiling wasn't high enough. Here, let me show you. When they lifted the first distillation, the ceiling wasn't high enough because they have to put this in, and they couldn't take the whole load out. So what Gary did was he thought of a way to solve the problem, was he put in an extra tray. So the 2 trays inside the cooker. So he would lift up one tray, send it out, and then he would lift the second tray. The problem was the ceiling wasn't high enough. The cooker was 12 feet deep. So he separated into 2 trays. And I remember the video that Dr. Zhang showed me. I couldn't find it anymore. It was lifting and it was halfway and there was no more space. And everything fell to the floor. And everybody went, oh, but Gary thought of a way. And also, this was open, like this. He had designed for the truck to unload inside the distillery so that they no longer have to unload in the cold and no longer will freeze. So it was much easier to unload and much more efficient. So yeah, this is Gretchen. And we had 3 21-liter cooker and 1 6,500 liter cooker. And 14 tons of blue spruce yield 14 kilograms of oil. 14 tons of blue spruce make 14 kilograms of oil. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, Gretchen, it was really fun. I really miss winter harvests. And so there was strict requirement during distillation. Every distillation, depending on the plant that they were distilling, we have a strict temperature, time, and pressure requirement. And this was the gigantic cooker. You see 5 ladies standing in there, still have so much space left. And remember that only glass and stainless steel is used in a distillery. In fact, many small essential oil distillery on the market, so those would be the other companies, not the ones that we use carbon steel, copper, and aluminum cookers because they don't know that it will affect good quality of the essential oils. And that is the problem with the commercial essential oils. A lot of them are brought through brokers. They don't have the stringent requirements. For our oils, it's only stainless steel and glass. And when Gary designed this separator, we can see he put in a glass so that the members can see the oil coming out and we can see the pass over. And when the oil is passing over, that is when the oil and the water separate. It actually has this pop, 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 pop noise. So that's when they know that passover is happening. And he designed it so that everybody can see it. And he was very excited because he designed the world's first distillation cooker. It's a computer program and he can control it and look at it anywhere in the world. Especially because if the temperature and pressure is controlled well, the molecules will return back into the plant material from the steam. and a lot of the important molecules would be lost. So controlling the temperature, time, and pressure is crucial during a distillation. And with this computerized, he can see everything. And he was so excited to show all of us. It was so cute. And when we go to Winter Harvest, Gary really, he has so much trust on our members and so much trust on people. He would let us loose anywhere in the distillery, and we would go around and we could take floral water. He encouraged us to take the floral water home. And this is actually the coffee filters, because all of our essential oils are filtered by hand. And this was the coffee filter that we use to filter our oils. And he have found that the organic coffee filters work the best. They've tried many, many different things. These actually work the best. So because these actually have absorbed a lot of the essential oils, they usually throw it away, but we ask them to keep for us so that we keep them and then we put them on our skin like a facial mask. It's just so much fun. And we were really, truly allowed to take whatever we want, but we would take some oil, we would take some water, floral water, because we respect, And after distillation and testing, each batch of essential oils is poured into a 500-gallon stainless steel oil drum and slowly stir. So they're mixed, different batches are mixed together. And they slowly stir for 14 to 30 days, allowed to different molecules to mature and create harmony. Each plant essential oils has a little green taste, and it's the taste of the chlorophyll. And after it's stirred, the chlorophyll will slowly evaporate, and the rest is the beautiful, mature essential oil. That is why when we are at Winter Harvest, the smell of the oil is a little bit different than the ones that we smell in the bottle. It's because the one that we smelled in the bottle has matured. And I really love watching it when the oil come out. And these little pockets, you see the white thing, is actually the cell membrane of the oil. We have a aromatherapist teacher in our group, and she said that these are actually really good preservative for natural skincare. So we actually took them and we brought home to use for DIY. And the little white bubbles, that's when the white bubbles come out of the oil and burst, and that's when the oil come out. Fascinating thing. And so 2013 was my first Winter Harvest. 2014 Yangling opened, Hong Kong opened, I couldn't go. 2015 we brought a bunch, we went together. So this is Gretchen, and then Orange and Christina. Christina actually now is in Toronto. She just went to convention. And this is the dining room and the kitchen. We all volunteered to cook and clean up. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And Gary would teach us at night. His favorite things to do was to ask us questions and to connect with us and ask us about our life. And he was always talking about liver. Like he would teach and teach. Oh my God, those were such happy days. And we had so much fun. So this is the room with the four, I think it was 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I remember correctly, there were 3 or 4 bunk beds, so 6 on each side. So 6 or 8 bunk beds on each side. So we stayed there for a whole week, right? We could stay there forever. This is the dining room. It was breakfast time. Every time he would talk to us, and people would start crowding around and taking photos and recording. This is Tamara. And this is the room with the 3 jacuzzi. We could stuff everybody in the jacuzzi. It was so much fun. Oh my goodness, we need to go back there. And at night we would sit around and we would chat. And remember this year, that 2016 was again the next year. So this was 2015, and then 2016 we went again. There were 20 of us, and Gretchen is there again. We couldn't get. We really went every year. And then 2017 we went to Northern Lights. Anyway, so that year, 2016 January, was when he came back from Nepal. I remember that day he came back, he called Nikki Davis, who was the head of the foundation back then. He called Nikki Davis, so Nikki flew up with him, and he told us all about Nepal. And you can go back, so in the lesson that we were talking about Nepal, I will talk about it a bit more. And he told us about Nepal. It was, usually Winter Harvest starts on Sunday night. So we all arrive on Sunday at different times, and then we'd be driven from the airport to the farm. And so usually I plan to arrive Saturday night. So we stay one night, and then the car will pick us up on Sunday morning. from the airport, and then we'll drive because it's like a 2-3 hour drive from the airport to the farm. And then we will settle in around lunchtime, and then we'll settle in, and then we have dinner together, and Monday we can start. So we have a little bit of orientation on Sunday night, and then Monday morning we'll start. And usually what Gary did was he would spend Wednesday to Friday and Saturday at, actually he would spend Wednesday, Friday night, and then he'd probably leave on Friday night or Saturday morning. He'd go back to Utah, go back to Salt Lake City, spend time with his family Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday he'd go back to the office in Salt Lake. And then Wednesday morning, he would fly up to Highlands and he would go to winter harvest again. So he spent 2 to 3 days at each week. And that day he arrived on Wednesday around lunchtime. And that night he told us, he sat us around the sitting area, and he just returned from Nepal. And he told us about how the earthquake has affected the residents in the mountains who have not received any donations since a year ago. We all were so touched and we all cried. We're going to talk about it a little bit in the class when we talk about Nepal. And the photo here was these two girls, Claire and Zoe. They were with us and they just learned hand reading. It's sort of like pulse taking for Chinese medicine, but you can also see from the face and from the palm, from the color of the palm, you would know the health of the person. And they were looking at his palm, they were checking him, and they said that his lungs, there was something not right with his lungs. And Gary said, yeah, since that sickness from Ecuador, from the Amazon. So this was 6 years after that, okay? He said he has always felt like something was wrong and he couldn't quite breathe right. And he would be out of breath very easily, which he never did before. So this was the January of 2016. Summer of 2016 was when he injured his hand, okay? So from his hand, they could see, and they could also see that he wasn't sleeping enough, I remember. And yeah, those were two things. And other than that, they said he was very healthy. So this was a group hug, and this was scary. Oh, such precious time. And I have a lot of people who ask me, so now that Gary is not here, what happens to Young Living? What about the distillation process? Are we still keeping to our stringent restrictions and stringent requirements? And this is Brett Packer, and then Brett and Chris Packer, the sons of Tamara Packer. Tamara is the official Young Living raindrop trainer in the company. Brett used to look after the Highland Flats distillery. Chris used to look after the Ecuador and St. Mary's. But now they're both, along with Corey Howden, the three of them overlook all the farms worldwide. And when I was in Sandwood Farm in April, I ran into Chris because he was there for a week to check, actually doing due diligence to make sure that everything is according to our requirement and everything working well and testing the oils and everything. And everything that Gary did, all the research that he did over the past 30 years, were all documented. As if you had watched the convention, you would know that Mary talked about all the notes that Gary had taken, and he had written down all the requirements. This was actually taken out from the Seed to Seal book. And so we don't have to worry. In fact, we continue, and Brett and Chris and Corey and all our farm managers, they're very passionate about what Gary did, and they are committed to making it better. So in 2018, the Highland Flat Distillery was the first to change to the steam requirement for the steam distillation process from water boiler to a steam generator. The steam generator has 8 benefits: improve safety and reduce the risk of boiling the water in such high heat for such a long period of time. Because the water boiler, I remember Gary always said that the room was very dangerous because it could explode and it would reduce water wastage. It has low emission, it's better for the environment. The steam quality is better, it's dry steam, it's more effective, and increasingly effective, so that it actually increased the essential oil production from 13 liters to 17 liters per distillation. better fuel efficiency. Now it requires only 30 gallons of water compared to 3,000 gallons of water before. And redundant steam supply. It used to be we used to need to shut down the essential oil process, distillation process, every time the water pot was clean. No, we now no longer need to do it. So cleaning the boiler, we'll be talking about it in the Northern Lights class, and you know why we have to stop the distillation process and clean the boiler. Now with the steam generator, we do not have to do that anymore. And it's also very quick to start. It just takes 10 minutes. So it's much more efficient. And this was actually right. It's after Gary passed away. So obviously he knew about this because he passed away in February, in May, and it's all in the works. So Chris and Brad and Corey and all our distillation manager, they so passionate about what they do. The farm managers, they all love what we do, and they're so determined to continue Gary's legacy to do this as for the environment and for our products. And because protecting the environment was one of Gary's very adamant thing that he was very adamant about. And Gary believed reforestation is crucial. And every year we replant 65,000 to 85,000 trees every year. And we plant them at a healthy distance instead of planting them too close. So these trees grow to be healthy. And for every tree that we cut down, we plant 3. So that's around the same proportion. And I was talking to the farm manager in Northern Lights, and they were telling me they replanted a few 100,000 trees already through the years. So we don't have to worry about the trees being extinct. And they also always say that we have balsam fir and idle blue spruce and black spruce until enough for 3, 4, or 5 generations. And if we continue to reforest the trees, we will have continued supply for generations to come. This was something that Gary was very, very strict about. So this is all about the winter harvest. We continue to go to winter harvest. After 2016, we went to the balsam, the Highland Flats harvest. In 2017, we had them open the winter harvest for black spruce for Northern Lights, and we started going there. 2018 was the first winter festival in Northern Lights Winter Festival, 2018, 2019, and then COVID hit. So the last time I was there was right before COVID. Hopefully the world will open up again, and Canada will open up again, Hong Kong will open up again, and then I can travel to the farms and bring everybody, and you can all come with me. And I love the farms. My dream is to move to Fort Nelson one day and live right next to the farm. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, so this is something that I really true to my heart. And in fact, 2016 January was the last year that Gary attended winter harvests. We had been very blessed that we were able to go with him, and it will be a memory that we will always treasure. So the next class, we'll be talking about Northern Lights black spruce and its magical powers. And these 2 photos I took myself. So I'm excited to be sharing my love, my favorite farm my favorite place on the earth with you all next week. And if you have any questions, please do ask me down below. Do make a Facebook post and tell us what you have learned in this class, and hashtag 101 reasons for YL. Okay, so and I'll see you next week. Bye.